Chapter 61, Could this thing be dragon crystals? 007 had a mind of its own, and that was precisely why this method might just work. As soon as the players heard Tianheng's plan, they immediately sprang into action. While the Eternal Guild hadn't found any wolf pups nearby, getting their hands on some wasn't difficult. With their influence, they asked other guilds for a couple of wolves, raised them for a short time, and soon had a whole pack ready. Unlike in classic Minecraft, the in-game breeding speed for animals wasn't instantaneous, but an hour per pup was still quick enough. 6 hours later, under Tianheng's command, the guild had successfully bred over a dozen wolf pups, all standing by for the task ahead. Inside the obsidian cage. The moment a wolf pup with a black collar was led inside, 007, who had been lying motionless in the corner, immediately stood up. His gaze fixed on the pup. A low, mournful whine escaped his throat. Growling. Monsters had their ways of recognizing one another. While this wolf, with its black collar, was a mirror image of Little Bug, 007 knew it wasn't really him. He recognized the truth, yet the sight brought back haunting memories, the feel of Little Bug's blood on his hands, the faint touch of his tongue on 007's cheek, the weak wag of his tail, and the final warmth slipping away. He would never forget devouring Little Bug's remains, the metallic taste of blood, the searing pain in his chest, and the heavy weight in his stomach. This was a memory that would be etched into his soul forever. Roar! 007 let out a heart-wrenching howl, each note trembling with sorrow. In his pain, the collared wolf lunged and sank its teeth into his leg, making his health drop a small fraction. Gore! Instinctively, 007 raised a hand to strike back, but it stopped midair. His eyes filled with a storm of emotions, rage, despair, and a deep sense of loss. Even though he knew this wolf wasn't Little Bug, even though it attacked him, he couldn't bring himself to retaliate. He'd already lost the real Little Bug and would never see him again, but watching another wolf that looked just like him die felt unbearable. The collared wolf continued its relentless assault, but 007 refused to fight back, dodging as best he could within the confines of the cage. Yet, space was limited, there was nowhere to run. With each bite his health dropped lower and lower. Soon he had only a sliver of health remaining. One more attack would end him. Outside the cage, the player controlling the wolf pup was dumbfounded. Is he really not going to fight back? The assault had been carefully orchestrated. Under Tianheng's orders, there was no intention of actually killing 007. This was merely a test to see if Tianheng's strategy would work. At that critical moment, 007 finally moved. After what appeared to be a monumental internal struggle, he made his decision. Roar! With a heart-wrenching roar, he swung his arm and ended the wolf pup's life. Exhausted, 007 collapsed to the ground beside the limp body of the pup, gasping for breath. His dark eyes glistened with a hint of red, betraying the torment within him. He had to survive. His master had told him, "Live and return to me." His master had also entrusted him with the care of the wolf pups, instructing him to return them one day. But he had failed in that promise. Now, all he could do was stay alive to atone. No matter how much suffering it took, he had to live to atone. It worked. Seeing 007's anguish after killing the pup, the player outside immediately reported the success to Tianheng. Tianheng wasted no time, ordering the players to continue. Without delay, another wolf pup with a black collar was brought into the cage. The End Realm. Hurry! Push harder! The Ender Dragon's almost down. Where's the TNT? Get more TNT over here. Screw the TNT. Charge. Even if it means bare-handed brawling, take it down. The Ender Dragon's health bar was nearly depleted. Songlong's excitement was palpable. From the moment they first found the Ender Dragon, they'd been locked in this battle for 2 whole days, 48 real hours, not in-game time. The Glorious Guild's 20,000 members had been fighting tooth and nail for 2 days straight. But their perseverance was paying off. Victory was finally within reach. The players, exhausted from sleepless hours of fighting, were now driven by a frenzied determination. For 2 days, their lives had revolved around this battle, and the end was in sight. Damn it. Go all out. Quick, quick. Overwhelm it. Cut it down with everything you've got. Seriously, after this grind, it better give us an insane loot drop. I can't wait. We're about to slay a dragon. The loot's gonna be incredible. With a final flurry of blows, the Ender Dragon's health bar emptied. Its body floated upwards, its form breaking apart as streams of purple light burst forth. Then, in a spectacular explosion of bright light, it shattered. The Ender Dragon, the ultimate boss of Minecraft, went out with a bang, a fireworks display befitting its legendary status. The full immersion game had made the spectacle even grander, with an aura of a fallen ruler's demise. The glorious guild players stared, awestruck. Whoa! That death animation is insane. Damn, with that kind of send-off, it feels like we really just toppled a major legend. Look at that. It's a massive loot drop. Rubbing my hands, I'm ready to grab all the gear. As the Ender Dragon's remains scattered in a dazzling burst, green orbs began to rain down from the sky. From a distance, it was hard to tell exactly what these were, but they seemed eerily familiar. What are those? Why do they look so familiar? Is this the Ender Dragon's loot? So much of it? Holy crap, a rain of green orbs? Could this be dragon crystals? Does that even look like a dragon crystal to you? Despite the uncertainty about what exactly was falling, the players were brimming with anticipation. Judging by the sheer number of orbs, it looked like the Ender Dragon had indeed left behind a massive haul. Chapter 62 Torture. Cruelty. If this green orb really turned out to be something amazing, then the Glory Guild was about to hit the jackpot. The players craned their necks, watching the green orb slowly descend from the sky. Moments later, the first green orb finally touched down. Seeing this, Songlong was the first to rush over. As he approached, the green orb was instantly absorbed into his body. At the same time, his experience bar surged upwards. Whoa, what the? Songlong stood there, stunned. While he was still dazed, more green orbs began raining down, landing on the ground and even on the players. When they realized that these green orbs were actually experience balls, everyone was dumbfounded. Are you kidding me? Just these measly XP balls? This has to be a bug. No way. This is the Ender Dragon, the ruler of the End, and it only drops this. High EQ, Ender Dragon, Lord of the End. Low EQ, XP farm fodder. I can't believe this. Is this even fair? The Glorious Guild had been grinding for 48 hours straight, hoping for a major loot drop from the Ender Dragon. And technically it was a major drop, just not what they expected. Instead, it was an avalanche of curses. It took a while for Songlong to recover. Seeing the endless XP balls scattered around, he was about ready to explode. But he wasn't ready to give up yet. There was no way the Ender Dragon only dropped XP. Search. Turn this place upside down. Damn it. There has to be more loot. Find it. The Glorious Guild members shared Songlong's disbelief. Before he even finished giving orders, they had already begun searching frantically. Not long after, they actually found something. Boss, we found something. It's a dragon egg. The shout drew Songlong over immediately. Sure enough, there it was, a black dragon egg resting on a block of end stone. Songlong's heart raced at the sight. He quickly stepped forward and picked it up. The dragon egg was instantly absorbed into his inventory. Note: minor change to the dragon egg mechanic here. Ender Dragon Egg can hatch into an Ender Dragon. The hatched dragon will be tamed. Reading the item description, Songlong's heart pounded. This is amazing. He quickly relayed the news to Yonghui. Upon hearing it, Yonghui was equally ecstatic. Excellent. As expected. Now, we just need good news from Tianheng. After decimating the Cloud Soar Guild base, Xu Yuan headed to the Nether and dismantled the Wither Skeleton Farm. He then moved the execution mechanism from the Skeleton Farm over to the Zombie Pigmen Farm. With everything set up, Xu Yuan opened the taming system interface to monitor 007's vitals. The taming system allowed him to track monster health bars. At first, 007's health was steady, showing no issues. But recently, things had taken a strange turn. For some time now, 007's health kept dropping to the brink of death, only to slowly recover. Then it would plummet again, only to gradually restore. This cycle repeated endlessly. Xu Yuan quickly realized something was very wrong. This health fluctuation, it's too unusual. The first time 007's health had almost hit zero, Xu Yuan had panicked. He'd predicted that by faking his own death, 007 might face some kind of trial. So, when 007's health first dipped to a sliver, Xu Yuan immediately set out to find him. From the Cloud Soar Guild, he'd learned that 007 had been sighted near the Eternal Guild. The problem was, Xu Yuan had no idea where their base was. For days, he scoured the map, hunting for players he could interrogate about the Eternal Guild's location. But no matter how hard he searched, he found nothing. Fortunately, 007's health never hit zero. It slowly recovered each time, giving Xu Yuan a sliver of hope. Still, before he could fully relax, 007's health would drop to critical again. The cycle kept repeating. Clearly, something was terribly wrong. And Xu Yuan's gut told him the Eternal Guild was behind it. Torture. Cruelty. Those were the first words that came to mind. 007 was intelligent. He would never willingly endanger himself repeatedly. This fluctuation in health had to be deliberate. Someone was doing this on purpose. What's more, the wolf he'd gifted to 007, the one that had fought fiercely during the battle with the Triumph Guild, was dead. Even though it had a tendency to steal kills, it had still taken out over 10 players. The wolf had awakened a basic consciousness, and Xu Yuan could see it in his taming list. Its death happened right before 007's health started acting up. It was hard not to suspect that the Eternal Guild was responsible. Xu Yuan didn't know their motives, but one thing was clear, he wouldn't forgive them. This was all his fault, and he wouldn't just stand by. Deep in thought, Xu Yuan continued searching the map for players. Finally, after hours of relentless searching, his efforts paid off. On a vast, snowy plain, a few players were chatting while fishing by a lake. Should we just join a guild? Feels like our growth is way too slow. Guilds do boost growth, but if him finds us, it's game over. True. Hearing this, Tianli nodded in agreement. There are pros and cons, sure. A guild means faster progress, but you also paint a bigger target for him. Staying solo is slower, but at least him won't. Before Tianli could finish, he froze in place. Him? What about him? Come on, spit it out. Why'd you stop? Wife got stolen? Say it. The others were facing away from Tianli and hadn't noticed his expression. They had no idea why he suddenly fell silent. It was only when they turned around that they understood. Floating in the air was a figure with blazing white eyes. It was him. For the first time, Tianli and his friends came face to face with the legend. They'd only seen him on forums, where every image and video of him was blurred and censored. Before, they'd wondered why anyone who'd encountered him would be so terrified. Now they understood. Seeing him in person was nothing like the images and videos. Even standing silently, him's mere presence exuded suffocating pressure and a crushing aura. Tianli and the others were paralyzed with fear. They knew fighting back was futile. Running was pointless. When him appeared, there was only one outcome, death. With resignation etched on their faces, they prepared for the inevitable. Chapter 63, Don't Scare the Fish. The fishermen's instincts within them couldn't help but stay fixated on the few fish they had caught. Sir, can we talk this out? Maybe avoid using any explosive skills? We wouldn't want to scare off the fish. Yeah, take my life if you must, but at least let me put my catch in the box first. Hearing his friend's words, Tianli was dumbstruck. These buddies of his were avid fishermen in real life, and even in the game, their love for fishing persisted. But he never imagined that even facing imminent death, they'd plead with him not to use explosive skills, just so their fishing spot wouldn't be disturbed. Unbelievable. Xu Yuan, hearing Tianli's group, almost burst into laughter. Fishermen? Truly a breed of their own. To them, Scaring the fish was apparently a fate worse than death. Still, Xu Yuan wasn't planning to kill them, at least not yet. The kill value he got per second from the monster farm tower far exceeded what he'd gained by eliminating this bunch. Not even worth the effort. More pressing matters lay ahead, locating the Eternal Guild's stronghold. Tian Li and his friends glanced nervously at him, who stood there, watching them silently. Finally, him spoke. "Where is the Eternal Guild?" Though phrased as a question, his tone and demeanor made it sound more like a command. Stunned silence greeted him's words. "Aren't you here to kill us? Did I hear that right? Him is asking for directions?" The group could hardly process this unexpected twist. Him, however, frowned impatiently at their gawking expressions. Realizing this, Tian Li's group immediately snapped out of their daze. "Wait, don't do anything rash. We can talk." "We don't know." The Eternal Guild is a massive organization. They'd never openly share the location of their headquarters. "We're just loners. We wouldn't have a clue. Maybe we could ask around for you?" Naturally, they clung desperately to whatever slim chance of survival they could muster, even if it meant finding the Eternal Guild's location. Unfortunately for them, they genuinely had no idea. As outsiders with no affiliations, there was no reason for them to hide such knowledge. Xu Yuan saw no point in wasting more time. With a casual flick of his wrist, he hurled a fireball at the group. The fireball hit the ground and exploded instantly, obliterating Tian Li's group in one strike. Without a second glance, Xu Yuan moved on to find the next set of players. He wouldn't waste time on dead ends. It was unlikely they were lying. Wandering solo players wouldn't go out of their way to protect the Eternal Guild's secrets. Continuing his search, Xu Yuan opened up the taming system interface. What he saw regarding 007's status left him stunned. Advanced consciousness evolution? Xu Yuan was surprised. Despite 007 being trapped, he had evolved into advanced consciousness. Does that mean he escaped? Xu Yuan quickly examined 007's health bar. After a brief inspection, his confusion grew. The health indicator remained the same, fluctuating from near-death to full recovery repeatedly. This clearly indicated that 007 hadn't escaped. Never mind. Finding him will answer everything. Xu Yuan put his questions aside. No matter what, he would track down 007. Once he did, the mystery would unravel itself. At the Eternal Guild stronghold, beside the obsidian cage, two players were engaged in conversation. Wasn't this zombie's eyes black before? Now they're red. Maybe it caught pink eye? You're the one who looks like you have pink eye. Clearly it's gone mad. All right, mission accomplished for us then. Yeah, you go report to the guild leader. I'm taking a nap, I'm exhausted. After discovering that wolf cubs could agitate 007, players had continuously tossed them into the cage. With the sheer volume of cubs being thrown in, at least 700 or 800 of them had died by 007's hands, if not more. What the players didn't realize, however, was that their actions were inadvertently adding to 007's player kill count. For every player killed, it was worth 1 point. Each wolf cub, by comparison, was worth 0.5 points. 007 had only been a few hundred kills away from advancing to advanced consciousness. Ironically, the Eternal Guild's relentless feeding expedited this evolution. The moment 007 ascended to advanced consciousness, he felt two powerful forces surging and colliding within him. While he sensed their immense potential, he was clueless about wielding them. As 007 pondered this, a player with an ID that read Pung Pung poked his head near the cage window. Hey, hi. Shoo, they don't make a sound. I snuck over here. There's something I need to tell you. Since the reveal of Little Bug's spy status, Peng Peng's standing had plummeted. Though never a high-ranking member, Peng Peng was a veteran of the Eternal Guild and enjoyed decent perks. But after the Little Bug incident, while he wasn't outright expelled, he was punished severely. From then on, Peng Peng was demoted to the lowest ranks, relegated to menial tasks like farming and tending livestock. Even basic expeditions and open-world ventures were denied to him. But what stung the most was the unending mockery from other players. Though months had passed, some still wouldn't let it go, their words harsh and mocking over a minor loss of equipment. Iron gear, not even diamond. With mining and crafting facilities, getting another iron set wasn't difficult. Why the relentless bullying? Confronted by this ceaseless ridicule and provocation, even the higher-ups turned a blind eye, tacitly condoning such abuse. With no end in sight, the torment grew worse, isolating Peng Peng further. It was blatant harassment. Peng Peng couldn't believe that a mere game could become so toxic. He refused to put up with it. This guild wasn't worth his time. Yet Peng Peng refrained from quitting. Not because of sentimentality, but because he wouldn't leave until he had his revenge. His eyes turned to 007. They shared a bond through Little Bug. Peng Peng had first-hand knowledge of the torture inflicted on 007. He was even responsible for handling the black-collared wolves used against 007. Memories of his own dog, lost and cruelly butchered by dog traders, haunted him. For years, the image of that blood-soaked stall lingered. The game, however, brought a semblance of healing, thanks to Little Bug. Until tragedy struck again. This cycle of cruelty, embodied by Tian Heng, had to stop. Peng Peng couldn't change the past, but here, he had a chance. The chance to end this madness. He bided his time, watching the cage closely for any opportunity. Now, seeing a sliver of hope, Peng Peng made his move. 007, momentarily on guard, blinked as Peng Peng drew close. Though cautious, something about this man felt familiar, a residual trace of Little Bug. It was enough. Lowering his guard, 007 listened. Speak? He growled softly. Chapter 64, Revenge is only a matter of time. 007's words had just left his mouth when even he was surprised. He hadn't expected himself to be able to speak, though his words still came out a bit haltingly. Peng Peng was equally startled by this. However, he quickly recovered. It wasn't too shocking considering he was a subordinate of him. If him could speak, then it wasn't so surprising that 007 could do so as well. With that thought, Peng Peng slowly sat down and began chatting with 007. I'm Xiaobu, well, I'm the one who looks after your wolf in the camp. I named it Little Bug. I hope you don't mind. Peng Peng was unsure how to explain his relationship with 007. After speaking, he nervously glanced at 007, fearing any signs of displeasure. Seeing that 007's expression remained neutral, he finally relaxed. I know everything they did to Little Bug, but I was powerless. There was nothing I could do. At this point, 007 could clearly sense Peng Peng's deep guilt. This also confirmed that Peng Peng's feelings for Little Bug were genuine. Additionally, 007 had already learned some things about Peng Peng from Little Bug. Little Bug actually liked Peng Peng quite a bit and had no intention of hurting him. For that reason, 007 had even scolded Little Bug, reminding it not to forget its mission. Seeing that 007 was listening attentively, Peng Peng continued. I couldn't stand it when I saw them using Little Butt to torment you psychologically. But even then, my options were limited. All I could do was come here and offer you some advice. 007 nodded to show he understood and encouraged Peng Peng to continue. The best move for you right now is to play along. They're treating you this way to break you, to make you serve them. So why not turn the tables on them? Just like when you sent Little Bug to infiltrate the Eternal Guild. The key is to make them believe you've been tamed. Once you're out of this cage and strong enough, you can strike back. Peng Peng's words made a lot of sense. It really was the best plan for 007 to escape and take his revenge. Just like when he had sent Little Bug into the Eternal Guild, it was only by convincing them of its loyalty that they were able to deal a critical blow at the right moment. Otherwise, the Eternal Guild would continue to use Little Bug against him, and 007 would never escape this obsidian prison. Deep in thought, 007 mulled over Peng Peng's suggestion. It was a point he hadn't considered before. After careful reflection, he realized that Peng Peng's plan was indeed viable. Understand? Convinced of Peng Peng's sincerity, 007 decided to accept his advice. Peng Peng was overjoyed to see 007 agree. Oh, and don't listen to them. Him, your master, as we call him, isn't dead. I'll find a way to let him know you're here. Peng Peng worried that the Eternal Guild players might brainwash 007 into believing that him was gone. That's why he made sure to share this crucial information. 007 didn't appear surprised by the news. Even though the Eternal Guild had told him countless times that him was dead, he never believed it. He could still sense that his master was alive. Before Peng Peng could say more, noises came from outside. I have to go. Take care of yourself. With that, Peng Peng quickly disappeared underground. Just as he hid himself, a voice rang out from above. Already losing it? The player on watch immediately snapped to attention upon hearing Tianheng's voice. Yes, guild leader. Look, his eyes are completely red. Tianheng glanced into the cage. Inside, 007 was repeatedly banging his head against the wall, as if driven mad. Satisfied with the sight, Tianheng smirked. Begin the next phase of brainwashing. Tell him we are his masters now. His orders are to obey us. His loyalty must be absolute. After issuing orders to the players, Tianheng promptly reported 007's conditioning progress to Yonghui. Naturally, Yonghui was pleased. This is heaven's blessing for our eternal glory. He had barely finished reading a message from Canglong when he received Tianheng's report. Both operations were going smoothly. Arrangements had already been made for hatching the Ender Dragon egg. Canglong and his team were tasked with accelerating the process. On Tianheng's side, Yonghui provided further guidance. It shouldn't take much longer to break him. Once he's tamed, make sure he kills plenty of our players. My guess is that he, like him, grows stronger by killing players. With our 20,000 members taking turns, his growth should catch up to him soon enough. Ever since the Cloud Soar Guild incident, Yonghui had closely monitored him's movements. Currently, him had yet to locate a new batch of players. Thus, with proper feeding, 007's strength should rise quickly. Even if he couldn't surpass him, the Eternal Glory Guild still had the Ender Dragon as their trump card. A 2-on-1 fight would be nothing to fear. Hidden underground, Peng Peng continued tunneling. He soon found the path he'd used to arrive and stealthily returned to his post. Once back, Peng Peng immediately opened the forums. He began searching for posts related to him. His promise to 007 wasn't empty words. Peng Peng had seen 007's strength firsthand. It wasn't enough to defeat him. If there was any hope of successful revenge, him's involvement was critical. Peng Peng had watched Steve's live broadcasts, so he knew that him was having difficulty finding players. Moreover, the location of the Eternal Guild's base was known only to its members and a select few guild leaders. Therefore, Peng Peng needed to leak this information. Searching for posts with him quickly brought up over 1,000 pages. Clearly, him was still a hot topic. Sorting by the latest posts, Peng Peng clicked through the top results. The posts all told similar stories, him appearing suddenly and asking for the Eternal Guild's location. When the players didn't know, they were killed. Reading through them, Peng Peng's heart raced. There's hope. He realized that him was also looking for 007. This made things easier. All Peng Peng needed to do was post the exact location of the Eternal Guild under these threads and boost their visibility. With him interrogating players, one of them might just point him in the right direction. Motivated, Peng Peng put his plan into action. He wasn't careless. He made sure to post anonymously. While it was still possible for the Eternal Guild to trace him, by the time they did, him would likely have arrived. By then, nothing else would matter. After hours of work, the posts gained traction. More players were reporting encounters with him. Soon, him would have the information he needed. Seeing this, Peng Peng smiled to himself. Revenge is only a matter of time. Little bug, hold on. I'll help you get your revenge soon. 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. In-game, 8 cycles of day and night came and went. Currently, at the Tianheng Guild's plaza, 007 stood in the center, surrounded by a line of players taking turns approaching him, unequipped and ready to die. To speed up the process, Tianheng had even handed him an iron sword for more efficient killing. Though, unlike before, the players now wore smiles as they offered themselves up. Chapter 65 Eternal Guild's Location. Kill more. Kill as many as you can. We've got to surpass him. Come on, zombie boss, don't hold back. See this head of mine? Smash it right here. See? If you'd just given in sooner, wouldn't life be so much more comfortable? Fresh meat delivered right to your door. Not far away, Pring Pung, who was busy feeding the pigs, couldn't help but tremble as he held a carrot in his hand. The entire plan was progressing flawlessly. Now, all that remained was to wait for good news from him's side. Xu Yuan had never stopped searching for 007. Even though he had noticed over the past few days that 007's health bar was no longer depleting as rapidly, he didn't let his guard down. No matter what state 007 was in, Xu Yuan was determined to uncover the truth. 007 had not only awakened advanced consciousness but was also consistently providing him with kill points. Day after day. By now, after his breakthrough to advanced consciousness, 007 had already amassed over 40,000 player kills in a short span. That number was off. Way off. Xu Yuan had done his homework on the Eternal Guild over the past few days. As a level 2 guild, their membership was just over 20,000. Even if 007 had broken free and slaughtered them all, the maximum possible kill count would barely exceed 20,000. Yet somehow, 007 had accumulated so many kills without even taking damage. Something was clearly not right. Could he have been turned against us? As this thought crossed Xu Yuan's mind, the image of a familiar figure, the drowned king, flashed through his mind. But then he dismissed it as unlikely. Even though 007 had always felt eerily familiar, he was sure it wasn't the drowned king. Their personalities were too different. 007 was calm and loyal. It was precisely this loyalty that fueled Xu Yuan's curiosity. What exactly had 007 been through? Whatever it was, it must have been quite the adventure. With renewed determination, Xu Yuan intensified his search. On a vast, sprawling grassland, a few players were gossiping about the latest forum threads. Looks like him has been picking fights with the Eternal Guild lately. Yeah, rumor has it that the Eternal Guild managed to recruit one of him's underlings. What? Which one? That diamond-armored zombie? I heard they're training him. Supposedly he's crazy strong. What's the point of turning him? Him could wipe out 20,000 people in a minute. As the players chatted away, one of them suddenly noticed a figure hovering in the sky in the distance. Wait, isn't that him? Recognizing him, the players quickly stripped off their gear, dug a deep hole, and stashed their loot boxes. Then, they hollered at the top of their lungs. Hey! Him! Can you hear us? Him! The Eternal Guild's base is at 2417, 35, 1140. We heard your underling got captured. Go save him already. By the way, since we're risking our necks giving you this info, maybe consider taking us in as your little brothers? These players were solo wanderers, always ready for a good show and chaos. Seeing him in person, they were thrilled. The buzz on the forums was all about him's ongoing feud with the Eternal Guild. Every thread seemed to have some anonymous post revealing a set of coordinates. But nobody knew if any of the coordinates were legit. Still, they figured it was worth a shot and passed the info along to him. Him turned, casting a long, intense gaze at the players. They braced themselves for the worst, prepared to die, only for him to vanish the next moment. What? He's gone. You think he's planning a sneak attack? Wake up, man. With your level, you think him needs to sneak up on you? He's probably headed to those coordinates. Looks like things are about to heat up. Not that we'll get to watch, right? Eternal Guild's not about to stream that showdown. Quick, post on the forums. We're the only ones who met him and lived to tell the tale. Tian Heng had spent countless days training 007. Though 007 hadn't undergone a qualitative transformation, his overall strength had significantly increased. Most of his improvements were physical. He was visibly bulkier and much tougher. His health had skyrocketed. Where even wolf cubs once managed to injure him, their attacks now barely tickled. Tianheng even had players test him with attacks. Against an iron sword, 007 only took a few points of damage. No longer clad in diamond armor, 007's flesh alone had become as tough as diamonds. His control over monsters had also improved. Now, he could command over 1,000 beasts and even tame them. While Tianheng was pleased with the progress, he remained puzzled. Why hasn't he developed any skills yet? Him had plenty of skills: explosions, teleportation, stealth, potion throwing, and more. But 007, despite his enhanced strength and physique, had developed no skills. This concerned Tianheng deeply. No matter how strong a body, without special abilities, he feared 007 would be at him's mercy. Determined, he increased the training pace, hoping 007 would awaken skills soon. His thoughts were interrupted by a player bursting into the room, breathless. "B-boss. Something's wrong. The forums. People are saying him is hunting for our guild's location." Tianheng shot to his feet. "What?" He paused, then breathed a sigh of relief. Initially worried that him and 007 might have some connection, the news brought him some comfort. If him was asking around, it meant he didn't know where 007 was. Calming down, Tianheng waved the player off. "Relax. Let him search. No one knows where our base is." But before he could sit back down, the player dropped a bombshell. "An anonymous user posted our coordinates." "What?" Tianheng jumped up, heart pounding. He frantically opened the forums. He didn't even need to search. Every thread was filled with posts about him tracking the Eternal Guild's base. In each, a pinned anonymous comment listed the coordinates. The more Tianheng read, the more panic set in. Him couldn't infiltrate networks, but he could extract information from players. 4 lone wolves, revealing the guild's location was a no-brainer if it meant survival. With trembling hands, Tianheng messaged Yonghui. "Boss? Him is hunting down our guild's location." At that moment, Yonghui was at the glorious guild base. After Dragon Egg's acquisition, Yonghui had raced to the glorious guild, leading a contingent. Though both the Eternal and Glorious guilds had powerful weapons, Yonghui clearly prioritized the Ender Dragon. In his time there, he'd been of great help to Songlong. The eggs hatching had stumped Songlong for days until Yonghui suggested placing it on lava. Only then did the Ender Dragon egg finally begin to hatch. Chapter 66, Big Battle, is on the horizon. At this moment, the Ender Dragon was still in its juvenile stage, but its size had already grown to match that of a fully grown ox. However, it had a massive appetite. Members of the Glory Guild had to prepare a hefty supply of animal meat every day to feed the young Ender Dragon. Fortunately, the Glory Guild could handle the expense. Yonghui kept a close eye on the Ender Dragon's growth. Although it was still young, its scales were already hardening. Yonghui had even arranged a test. Even in its juvenile stage, regular arrows couldn't penetrate the Ender Dragon's defenses. Its weakness was still in close combat, though. But Yonghui wasn't worried about that. It would be fine once it reached adulthood. Additionally, Yonghui conducted tests where other monsters attacked the Ender Dragon. The results put Yonghui at ease. Even while young, other monsters couldn't harm it in the slightest. Although the Ender Dragon was powerful, Yonghui still had a lingering concern. While regular monsters couldn't hurt it, he wasn't entirely sure if him could. By logic, him should also be classified as a monster. But, naturally, Yonghui couldn't test him directly, so he turned his focus to 007. Since 007 and him were, in some sense, similar types of creatures, Yonghui believed that if 007 couldn't hurt the Ender Dragon at all, then him probably couldn't either. That meant their chances of victory were solid. With that thought, Yonghui quickly replied to Tianheng. "Why are you panicking? Didn't I say I have a trump card? What's the state of the zombie now?" Tianheng responded immediately. Besides lacking any evolved skills, its physical strength and raw power are formidable. "Boss, what's your trump card?" "The guild's location has been exposed. Him could come at any moment." Tianheng was growing desperate. Yonghui kept claiming he had a trump card but never revealed what it was. Seeing Tianheng's message, Yonghui pondered for a moment, then turned to Songlong beside him. Gather everyone. We're making a trip to the Eternal Guild. Looks like a big battle is on the horizon. Chapter 77. Will there be a live stream? I want to watch. Songlong had already heard from Yonghui about Tianheng's taming of 007. But Songlong wasn't impressed by 007. No matter how strong it was just a subordinate zombie under him. And reportedly, it hadn't even evolved any special skills. However, their guild's young Ender Dragon was entirely different. Songlong had fought the Ender Dragon for a grueling 48 hours to capture it. He knew better than anyone the true strength of the Ender Dragon. Songlong was confident it could rival, if not surpass, him's power. The only drawback was that the Ender Dragon was still a juvenile. If it could reach maturity, him wouldn't stand a chance. While Songlong didn't want to get involved in the Eternal Guild's affairs, he couldn't refuse since Yonghui had already stepped forward. With that in mind, Songlong asked Yonghui, "Boss, how many people are we bringing?" After a brief pause, Yonghui replied, "Leave about 1,000 to 2,000 lower-level members to maintain guild operations. Bring everyone else." Yonghui had brought nearly 30,000 people this time, with most of the guild's members mobilized. He had long been prepared for battle. After all, Tianheng's 007 was like a ticking time bomb. There was no telling when him would come knocking. Previously, Yonghui wasn't confident. He didn't know what kind of loot the Ender Dragon would drop after the battle. Even after discovering it would drop an Ender Dragon egg, Yonghui still wasn't keen on the fight. He didn't want to provoke him. Yonghui had also learned about the Cloud Soar Guild incident. He knew Yunli personally and understood his character well. The fact that someone like Yunli had been driven to quit the game spoke volumes about how difficult him was to deal with. But now, with him actively seeking out the Eternal Guild's location, Yonghui couldn't stand by idly. If he did, the guild's reputation would be completely tarnished. So, this fight had to happen. Luckily, the Ender Dragon's strength gave him some confidence. There was a decent chance of winning. Once Songlong was ready, he and Yonghui led their forces toward the Eternal Guild's base. Meanwhile, on the forums, a post titled, "Come see the only man in the game who walked away unharmed after meeting him," was going viral. The post was simple. The author and their group encountered him, disclosed the Eternal Guild's coordinates, and him let them go. Gamers flooded the post with speculation. Whoa, seriously? Did you really give him the coordinates? Damn, you beat me to it. I was planning to do the same if I ever met him. Dude, you've got guts. If those coordinates are real, the Eternal Guild won't spare you. That place is Eternal Glory's pride. Why worry? Him's already heading there. The Eternal Guild, Eternal Glory, they'll all be wiped out anyway. Not necessarily. Rumor has it Eternal Glory is rallying their forces and heading to the Eternal Guild. Him's probably after his diamond-armored zombie servant, which the Eternal Guild apparently captured and tamed. Wait, they converted it? No wonder him's so eager to find them. Looks like we're in for another big battle. I hope they'll stream it. I'd love to watch. Probably not. Big guilds won't live stream unless they're fully confident. Just look at Cloud Soar Guild. The feud between the Eternal Guild and him was public knowledge on the forums. After all, nothing stays secret forever. Players, adopting a detached, not-my-problem attitude, eagerly watched the drama unfold. Everyone was certain that a battle between the Eternal Guild and him was inevitable. What they didn't know was whether it would be streamed live. Rumors of the diamond-armored zombie being tamed by the Eternal Guild added another layer of intrigue. If this battle didn't get streamed, it would be a real shame. Recently, Peng Peng had been monitoring the forums closely. When he saw that a player had leaked the guild's coordinates, he couldn't have been happier. His plan was falling perfectly into place. Him would arrive soon. Seeing players clamoring for a live stream of the battle, Peng Peng wanted to respond. This fight would definitely be streamed. But he held back, focusing instead on staying at the guild until the battle day. He wanted to capture every moment and broadcast it, ensuring the Eternal Guild's downfall. With any luck, it would mirror Cloud Soar Guild's disgraceful retreat. After obtaining the Eternal Guild's coordinates, Xu Yuan immediately began heading there. The new coordinates weren't far from the Cloud Soar Guild's former base. However, after days of searching, the distance had increased. Even with flight and teleportation, it would take about 2 days to reach. In the meantime, 007 had earned Xu Yuan around 5 million kill points. Reluctantly, Xu Yuan spent 2.5 million of those points upgrading his teleportation skill to level 7. Teleport LV7. Instantly teleport to a location within a 3,000 block radius, capable of carrying objects or entities within a 30 by 30 range. 3-second cooldown. Cost to upgrade, 2 million kill points. Xu Yuan had hoped the upgrade would remove teleportation restrictions, but it seemed he was still dreaming. At this rate, it would take a max-level skill to teleport anywhere freely. So, he decided not to waste more points and resumed his journey. Besides, there was no rush anymore. 007 was stable now, showing no signs of sudden health loss. That meant it was safe. After over 10 hours of traveling, Yonghui and his group finally arrived at the Eternal Guild's base. Fortunately, the distance between their base and the Eternal Guild's was relatively short. There were no mountains or rivers blocking the way. The journey was straightforward. Along the way, they continued to feed the young Ender Dragon. By now, it had entered adolescence, growing massively. It was over 50 blocks long and 20 blocks high. Its scales were even darker and tougher. Even an iron sword could only leave a faint scratch. Chapter 67, Holy Crap! Stop. The young Ender Dragon was already capable of flight, and just like its adult counterparts, it could exhale dragon breath. However, what it produced was more like a sputter, a small, weak puff rather than a full blast. As soon as the members of the Eternal Guild arrived, every player's attention was instantly drawn to the Ender Dragon. Holy crap! Is this the ultimate weapon our boss mentioned? It's a dragon? Our guild tamed a freaking dragon? Whoa! This dragon looks freaking awesome. Unreal. We managed to get our hands on a dragon. This means we're going all out against him. The Eternal Guild's secrecy was impeccable, so even its members had no idea that Song Long had tamed an Ender Dragon. While they might not grasp its status as the End Dimension's boss, anyone who played the game knew one thing: dragons held unmatched dominance. Even though this particular Ender Dragon was smaller than an adult, it exuded an intimidating aura. Its black scales gleamed ominously, and its eyes glowed with a dark purple light. Despite still being in its adolescent phase, it had already begun to show the bearing of a true overlord. At this moment, Tianheng couldn't help but be impressed as he watched the dragon circling above. So this is the ace in the hole the boss mentioned. Before seeing the Ender Dragon, Tianheng had been full of doubt. Now, those doubts had all but vanished. Although he wasn't sure about the dragon's full power, the fact that someone like Yonghui treated it as a trump card meant it was no ordinary beast. Despite the long journey, Yonghui showed no signs of fatigue upon arrival. He immediately turned to Tianheng and issued an order. Bring out that zombie. Let it spar with the Ender Dragon. Although the Ender Dragon was undoubtedly powerful, Yonghui still wasn't certain whether a monster like him could injure it. That's why he was so eager to test it in a fight. At Yonghui's command, Tianheng quickly instructed his subordinates to bring out 007. Only then did Yonghui and his crew see the zombie's true form. Its skin was an ashen gray, its body bulky and muscular, and its eyes emitted a chilling red glow. In its hand, it held an iron sword. The sword itself wasn't strange, but the way 007 gripped it was peculiar. Unlike most people who wielded swords with the blade facing forward, 007 held the blade pointed back, as if it were a dagger. It gave off a strangely menacing vibe. While not particularly massive, 007 emanated an oppressive aura, like that of a minor demon lord. Seeing this, Yonghui nodded approvingly. Not bad. Wasting no time, Yonghui signaled to Song Long to bring the Ender Dragon down. The dragon flapped its massive wings, creating gusts of wind that forced nearby players to step back as it slowly descended. When it finally landed, 007 stood facing it from a distance. The zombie studied the dragon without a trace of fear, as if assessing its opponent. This reaction took Yonghui by surprise. Normally, creatures of this tier should be terrified of dragons. Yet 007, despite its sentience, didn't back down from such an imposing presence. Interesting, Yonghui thought. This monster was definitely exceptional. His curiosity piqued. Yonghui eagerly awaited the confrontation between 007 and the Ender Dragon. Once he nodded his approval, Tianheng wasted no time in giving the order. Attack! In a blur of movement, 007 closed the distance with an astonishing burst of speed, leaping high into the air. As it reached the dragon's head, it swung its sword toward the dragon's eyes. Yonghui's eyes widened in shock. Holy crap! Stop! He hadn't expected 007 to target the dragon this way. Yonghui thought it would aim for the dragon's body, but the zombie had quickly deduced its weakness and attacked its eyes. The move stunned everyone. Holy crap! Is this zombie really that smart? Whoa, it even knows how to target weak points? The dragon's scales are tough, so it's going for the softest spot first. No wonder it's him's #1 minion. Correction, it's our #1 minion now. Luckily, Song Long maintained control of the dragon. As 007 lunged, Song Long forced the dragon to tilt its head, narrowly avoiding a devastating blow to the eyes. Instead, 007's blade scraped along the dragon's neck, producing a harsh screech and leaving a deep gash in its scales. To put things in perspective, even the strongest players could only leave minor scratches on the dragon's scales with iron swords. But 007 had cut deep, showing just how monstrous its strength truly was. Although the dragon's scales were damaged, it remained unharmed. Yonghui let out a sigh of relief and immediately issued another command. No weapons. Let's see it fight barehanded. He couldn't risk any more unexpected developments. Tianheng, seeing his leader's concern, ordered 007 to drop its weapon. But when the zombie didn't immediately comply, Tianheng grew uneasy. He repeated his order with a louder voice. Just then Pengpeng, who had been hiding among the onlookers, gave a loud cough. Only then did 007 reluctantly release the sword and move toward the dragon empty-handed. Tianheng made sure to stress, no attacking the eyes. 007 charged again, throwing a powerful punch that landed squarely on the dragon's scales. Bang! Bang! The impact echoed, but it barely made a dent. The dragon's scales were as hard as steel. Yes. Yonghui cheered. He was thrilled. If 007 couldn't pierce the dragon's defenses without a weapon, it meant him, who never carried weapons, would be at a major disadvantage. Him's strength lay in its skills, which Yonghui had already tested. None of the other monster's abilities had any serious effect on the dragon. With newfound confidence, Yonghui began issuing orders to the guild members. Keep feeding the Ender Dragon and this zombie. We need them to grow stronger. Our time is running out. Time passed quickly, and by the end of the day, the Ender Dragon had grown significantly under the Eternal Guild's care, nearly reaching adulthood. Its body had expanded to match the size of a mature dragon, over 100 blocks long and 50 high. Its scales gleamed black and emitted a faint purple glow, becoming even more resilient. Meanwhile, 007's power surged as it continued to grow. Its physical strength reached terrifying levels, now capable of denting the dragon's scales with a punch. However, it had yet to evolve any new skills. While Yonghui trained his forces, he knew the players themselves had to be battle-ready. He couldn't rely solely on the dragon and 007. At that moment, Tianheng and the guild's leadership were discussing ways to help 007 develop skills when a player burst into the room, exclaiming, "Boss! We found the player who anonymously leaked our guild's coordinates." Chapter 68, You've finally come. It's Peng. The senior members, hearing the player's words, were instantly filled with rage. No way. So, it was him. What a damn traitor. Like father, like son. Biting the hand that feeds you. A wolf raising another white-eyed wolf. Incredible. I said we should have kicked him out a long time ago. None of this mess would have happened. Tianheng, upon hearing this, felt the name sounded familiar but couldn't quite place it. Only after listening to the leaders' discussions did it click. Yet, Tianheng wasn't particularly angry. With the Ender Dragon and 007 as trump cards, not even him's arrival would be a real threat. He didn't want to waste his time on someone like Peng Peng. After thinking for a moment, he said, "Just kill him, then kick him out of the guild. No need to waste any more time." Even if Tianheng couldn't really deal with Peng Peng in the long term, since Peng Peng was a player, death meant respawning. All they could do was strip him of all his gear and resources and kick him out to vent their frustration. Chasing him in real life wasn't an option, after all. The players, hearing Tianheng's command, quickly found Peng Peng. A few of them dug a deep pit and filled it with lava. Grabbing Peng Peng, they shoved him inside. Peng Peng, even as he was being dragged away, already knew what was coming. As he fell into the scorching pool of lava, he didn't resist. He let the blistering heat consume him. Just then, a shadow streaked across the distance. With a quick motion, the shadow eliminated the players standing around the lava pit. Peng Peng's heart sank. It was 007. He had no idea where 007 came from, but it was clear the zombie wanted to save him. But Peng Peng couldn't let it happen. 007 had spent so long laying low, he couldn't blow his cover for him. As 007 prepared to strike down a third player, Peng Peng shouted out, "You heartless scum! Even a zombie knows to protect the Eternal Guild's players, and you treat me like this." The remaining players were initially stunned by 007's actions, but hearing Peng Peng's words, they understood. One of them hurriedly said, "This was Leader Tianheng's command. Did you forget? We obey the leader's word." 007 hesitated mid-strike, his hand frozen in the air. He glanced deeply at Peng Peng, then disappeared into the distance. Seeing 007 back down, Peng Peng let out a sigh of relief. As reckless as 007's actions had been, it still warmed Peng Peng's heart. Funny, wasn't it? After all this time playing games, a monster cared more for him than the members of the Eternal Guild. Hell, I might as well follow him and be a monster myself. Peng Peng died and was promptly kicked out of the guild. But it didn't end his plan for revenge. Once resurrected, Peng Peng wasted no time and rushed back toward the Eternal Guild's territory. He started scouting for the best streaming location. Previously, Peng Peng had been worried about being insta-killed by him when broadcasting the fight. Now, with his banishment, there was one less concern. All he needed was the perfect vantage point. He barely finished finding a spot when he noticed a floating figure at the entrance of the Eternal Guild's base. When did he appear? Peng Peng was sure no one was there moments ago. The figure's back was to Peng Peng, but there was no doubt. There was only one person who could appear so suddenly, hovering like that. The Demon King. Seeing him at the guild's doorstep, Peng Peng could barely contain his excitement. "Him, you finally come." Without hesitation, Peng Peng opened the forums and started streaming. Him descends upon the Eternal Guild, a battle at the brink. The title was too eye-catching. Players flocked in droves. Him's back faced the stream's camera, and across from him stood a grand structure surrounded by several zones, livestock pens, fields, wells, and more. A massive wall, 40 blocks high, encircled the base. It even had watchtowers with banners lining the walls, forming the guild's emblem. The streaming audience exploded with excitement. "No way! Him really showed up. Damn, this guild base is impressive. Screenshot before it's turned to rubble. Well, him can fly now. Wonder how strong he's gotten." Kind of excited. "Holy craps. A real live stream? Gotta share this. Too epic not to." Players' curiosity and hunger for chaos only fueled the stream's popularity. At the Eternal Guild's base, a player standing watch at a tower, bored out of his mind, suddenly noticed a figure materialize in midair. He almost jumped out of his skin. When he recognized who it was, chills ran down his spine. The player was frozen, his mind blank. Finally, he remembered his duty and scrambled to open the guild chat. "Him is here. Him is here. Attention! This is not a drill. Him has arrived." Eternal Glory had prepared extensively for this fight. To prevent ambushes, players were ordered to operate deep underground. No more venturing out or exploring. The guild chat for watchtower guards was set to bright red for maximum visibility. The moment the guard reported him's arrival, the guild chat erupted. So soon? Crap, even with our monster allies, I'm a bit scared. Stay calm. Follow the leader's orders. Yonghui knew him would come. He just didn't expect it so fast. He glanced at the young ender dragon beside him, feeling uneasy. If the dragon had been fully grown, he'd have more confidence. But it wasn't. Not yet. Still, it was too late to back down. Resolute, he gathered everyone in the underground plaza. For 10 years, Eternal Glory has dominated countless games. Many of you have seen us rise from nothing. For 5 years, in every game we entered, we set the standard. We called the shots. If we weren't number one, who dared claim they were? Players are called the fourth calamity for a reason. Gods? Dragon Kings? If you've got a health bar, we'll bring you down. Eternal Radiance had a way of rallying his people. In just a few words, morale soared. Him? Yeah, he has a health bar. Way shorter than the Ender Dragons. Probably no different from mine. Damn right. Fourth calamity, baby. If you've got a health bar, we're your worst nightmare. Thinking for yourself? Even your minions have been converted. Let's show him who's boss. Let's go. Show him this game belongs to the players. The players were ready, their spirits blazing. Eternal Radiance smiled with satisfaction. Brothers, this fight will make history. Wait, scratch that. We already made history. Let's erase him's name from this game for good. With his command, the players surged through pre-dug tunnels, emerging at the surface. More than 60,000 players surrounded him. They were armed to the teeth. The front lines were clad in full iron armor, shields raised, some even wielding diamond swords. Even the rear lines weren't lacking. The strength of the number 1 guild was undeniable. Chapter 69. My king. As the players took their positions, a dragon's roar tore through the sky. Yonghui and Songlong soared into the air atop the mighty Ender Dragon. The dragon ascended and circled the sky before settling on a spot not far from him. The livestream viewers were stunned. For most, this was their first encounter with a dragon. What the hell? This game has dragons? Whoa! No wonder the Eternal Guild dared to accept the challenge. They've tamed a dragon. That dragon looks so cool. Him looks tiny in comparison. Of course, it's the top guild. They even managed to get such an awesome mount. With gear like that and a dragon, Eternal Glory really lives up to their reputation. Could this be the battle where him falls? No one would have believed dragons existed in this game without witnessing it themselves. And players knew just how valuable a dragon was. Moreover, the battlefield was crowded with well-equipped players, over 60,000 of them, with nearly everyone sporting iron armor. That alone spoke volumes about their strength. As players marveled, the livestream's focus shifted downward. Standing at the forefront of the players' ranks was a creature with gray-black skin and eyes glowing crimson. The creature gripped an iron sword, and though the blade itself was basic, the way it wielded it radiated confidence and mastery. The sword looked almost like a dagger in its grip. Though not large, the creature exuded a presence as commanding as the dragon above. What the heck? Is that monster one of him's diamond-armored minions? Did the Eternal Guild turn it into this? Betrayed. No wonder him's after the Eternal Guild. That thing looks strong. Add in the dragon, and him might be in serious trouble. Seeing the Ender Dragon circling in the sky, Xu Yuan couldn't help but feel a bit surprised. He hadn't expected the players to advance so quickly. They'd already reached the end. What piqued his curiosity even more was that the Ender Dragon had been tamed. Upon closer inspection, Xu Yuan realized this dragon seemed a bit smaller. The reason for this eluded him, but he dismissed it without much thought. Ender dragons were of no concern to Xu Yuan. He cast only a brief glance at the dragon before losing interest. This reaction did not go unnoticed by Yonghui and Songlong, who found themselves bewildered. What was that look? He barely glanced over here. No idea. Maybe he doesn't recognize it? Didn't that zombie act indifferent the first time it saw an ender dragon too? Maybe. Could be. Regardless, a dragon was a dragon, massive and imposing. Even if him didn't recognize it with a mind of his own, he should at least sense some threat from such a formidable creature. Yet, he only spared it a glance before dismissing it entirely. This left Yonghui and Songlong feeling unsettled. But recalling how 007 had reacted indifferently to the dragon before, they decided not to dwell on it. At that moment, Xu Yuan's attention shifted completely to 007 below. Although 007's appearance had drastically changed, Xu Yuan recognized him instantly. The glowing red eyes told Xu Yuan all he needed to know. 007 was no longer the same. Perhaps he had evolved into something far more powerful. Xu Yuan descended slowly, landing opposite 007. He did nothing else, yet his mere presence caused players around him to retreat in panic. Just moments ago, they were brimming with confidence, but the sight of him was enough to shatter their resolve. The moment Xu Yuan touched down, 007 raised its sword and charged at him with blinding speed. It became a blur, moving too fast for the naked eye to track. Tianheng watched, bewildered. I didn't even give the order. It's moving on its own. The players saw 007's sudden action and erupted with excitement. Holy crap! It's going for the kill without hesitation? Looks like our brainwashing worked. Wait, wasn't it supposed to obey the Eternal Guild? Why does it recognize him? Remember, it's got its own mind. Maybe it sensed the enemy, like when it attacked the Ender Dragon's eye? All eyes were glued to 007. The tension was palpable. Everyone wanted to know if 007 could stand against him. As 007 closed the distance, it raised its sword high and struck down toward him. Just as it seemed the strike would connect, the sword veered, stabbing the earth before him. What happened next stunned everyone. 007 planted its sword in the dirt, dropped to one knee, and bowed deeply before him. It didn't dare meet him's eyes. Softly, it uttered two words. Leaving. When 007 sprinted forward, then plunged its sword into the ground and bowed to him, the entire battlefield fell silent. Can someone explain what just happened? Wasn't this zombie brainwashed? What? Another trick? I don't get it, but I'm completely floored. Tianheng's face contorted with rage. No matter how he looked at it, this wasn't how things were supposed to unfold. The zombie he'd spent so much effort brainwashing and training had just betrayed him in an instant. Or worse, it had never truly been under his control. Everything had been an act. He recalled all of him's past schemes and interactions with players, finally understanding. Damn it. Like master, like servant. What a damn good actor. Many guilds had fallen for him's tricks before, and now, even his subordinate had outplayed them. While players stood in disbelief, Xu Yuan felt a flicker of surprise. The moment 007 uttered, "My king," something shifted within him. Before him, a virtual screen appeared. It was like a carousel, displaying scenes from 007's life. The memories began with Xu Yuan naming 007. You'll be called 007? Next came scenes of Xu Yuan addressing them. Your destiny is to eliminate players. The more you kill, the stronger you'll become. Further memories showed Xu Yuan gifting 007 a diamond set and bidding farewell. Stay alive so you can see me again. Take good care of it. I'll want it back. Watching these moments filled Xu Yuan with a mix of emotions. Every key memory involved him. Though 007 had fought valiantly in the battle with the Triumph Guild, that encounter held no special place among its memories. For 007, the moments that mattered most were always with Xu Yuan. Feeling a pang of emotion, Xu Yuan continued to watch. After their parting, though he wasn't present, the wolf pup Xu Yuan had given to 007 featured prominently. They traveled together, played with ender pearls, and rolled around carefree. Even the memory's borders glowed golden, showing how precious this time was to 007. Its only regret was Xu Yuan's absence. Then came the day they encountered the Eternal Guild. The wolf pup acted as a spy, gathering intel for 007. Everything seemed fine, until one day, they were cornered by Eternal Guild members. When 007 next saw the wolf, its legs had been severed, and it lay dying. Xu Yuan clenched his fists. The memory showed 007 consuming the wolf's body, becoming weakened. Only now did Xu Yuan understand. Chapter 70-007. So it was you. The Death Knight? So it was you. Seeing the departing backs of 007 and the wolf cub earlier, Xu Yuan had felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity. Only now did he realize, belatedly, that 007 was actually the Death Knight. He was one of him's earliest followers, and the most loyal subordinate by his side. He had eyes that glowed red, a wolf-like appearance, and a unique way of wielding his sword. Just like the 007 standing before him now. Xu Yuan suppressed his inner excitement and continued watching 007's memories unfold. He wanted to know what exactly happened to 007 after all this time. What came next shattered Xu Yuan's already low opinion of human darkness. Tortured with molten baths and repeated brainwashing, these physical tortures alone were horrific enough. But Xu Yuan hadn't expected that the Eternal Guild would use the death of the wolf cub to subject 007 to unimaginable psychological torment. Seeing this, Xu Yuan cast a glance at the players present. An unsettling idea began to take root in his mind. Thank you for the inspiration. Indeed, mental anguish is far crueler than mere death. Within about a minute, Xu Yuan finished viewing all of 007's fragmented memories. Previously, when he was unaware of the situation, Xu Yuan had assumed that 007 must have led quite a thrilling life recently. But now, it was clear, this was the darkest period of 007's existence. Although all of it had contributed to his growth as a Death Knight, it was far too cruel for 007. He had once been a carefree and happy zombie. And in a way, Xu Yuan was responsible for it all. If not for his feigned death, none of this might have happened. Maybe it was fate, or just a cruel twist of luck. Either way, what had been done could not be undone. All Xu Yuan could do now was make amends to 007. To let him repay every ounce of suffering he had endured upon these scum, doubled. As Xu Yuan contemplated this, his thoughts were interrupted by 007's voice. Please, punish me. Hitabug is dead. Xu Yuan's words had always remained in 007's heart, but he had failed to fulfill them. He had not been able to properly care for Little Bug, which was why 007 clung desperately to life, just for a chance to see his master again and seek forgiveness. It was an undeniably touching scene, but when Xu Yuan heard the name Little Bug, he almost choked. Little Babug? Who in the world came up with that name? At that moment, Peng Peng, who was streaming live, suddenly sneezed for no apparent reason. Upon hearing 007 refer to Little Bug, even Peng Peng couldn't help but facepalm. Maybe it was just too hard for him to pronounce when he first started talking. 007 knelt on the ground, head bowed low, like a child waiting to be scolded. But instead of rebuking him, Xu Yuan simply shook his head and said softly, "It's not dead." Upon hearing Xu Yuan's words, 007's head snapped up, a mix of disbelief and hope in his eyes. Really? Where is it? The moment 007 had called Xu Yuan my king, Xu Yuan distinctly felt a connection form with two spiritual entities. These two entities were originally one, but at the moment, they were scattered and had not fully fused. After seeing the fragments of 007's memories, Xu Yuan finally understood the reason. Little Bug hadn't truly died. Instead, it had found another way to stay with 007 forever. Despite being subjected to molten torture day after day, 007's skin remained unscathed because Little Bug had been silently protecting him. The reason 007 hadn't sensed Little Bug was due to his overwhelming grief over its perceived death. Their powers had been unable to fully merge as a result. Realizing this, Xu Yuan looked at 007 and said gently, "Let go of your regrets. Feel it?" The words hit 007 like a bolt of lightning. He had been drowning in sorrow, consumed daily by thoughts of avenging Little Bug. Even after escaping the obsidian prison with Peng Peng's help, revenge was all he could think about. Ever since Little Bug's death, he had avoided remembering their times together. He couldn't bear to, his guilt towards Little Bug and his master was too heavy. But now, hearing Xu Yuan's words, he finally understood. He calmed himself, closed his eyes, and focused on recalling and feeling Little Bug's presence. The moment his heart settled, he heard a voice. "Hey, big dummy, can you hear me? You idiot. I've been calling you for days and you still couldn't hear me. Maybe I should have let the lava melt you. I'm done protecting you. So boring. It's all your fault, you big dummy." The voice stunned 007. Though he'd never heard it before, it was unmistakably familiar. He knew it was Little Bug's voice. From here, hearing 007's reply, the voice seemed momentarily shocked, falling silent for a long beat. Just as 007 was about to speak again, the voice finally burst out. "You finally heard me. Ahem. Do you know what I've been through these days?" Hearing Little Bug's lively tone, 007 felt a weight lift from his heart. As Little Bug babbled on, he could almost feel its tail wagging excitedly. "Sorry, I couldn't protect you." For everything that had happened, 007 was filled with guilt, and even knowing Little Bug was still here, he needed to apologize. Little Bug went quiet for a moment, then laughed heartily. "Knew you couldn't handle it? Good thing I'm tougher. So now, it's my turn to protect you." Before 007 could respond, he felt a change stirring within him. Since his higher consciousness had awakened, there had always been two forces clashing inside him. Now they began to merge. His appearance shifted. Fur grew rapidly, his ears receded, and a pair of upright wolf ears emerged on his head. A bushy tail sprouted behind him. His hands transformed into razor-sharp claws. Slowly, he was becoming more wolf-like. Seeing this transformation, Xu Yuan knew. The most loyal of his followers, the Death Knight, had fully awakened. On the battlefield, every player stared, dumbfounded. They hadn't even processed 007's defection, and now this transformation left them completely bewildered. What the hell is this? Is he shape-shifting? A werewolf. For you, I'll become a werewolf. For you, I'll burn with madness. Damn, that wolf coloration. Doesn't it look exactly like the one that died earlier? Wait, wolf spirit. What kind of game is this? How does something like this even happen? Have they fused? Peng Peng, streaming nearby, trembled with excitement as he saw the fully evolved 007. Little Bug, you're alive. Though he didn't understand what had triggered the transformation, he knew with certainty that 007 had fused with Little Bug. And he'd heard Xu Yuan say it too, Little Bug wasn't dead. Tears welled up in Peng Peng's eyes. "I'm just glad you're okay. Do you still remember me?" Peng Peng felt a pang of sadness, unsure if Little Bug retained its old memories after merging with 007. As he pondered, 007 suddenly turned, as if sensing him. Their eyes met, and in that instant, Peng Peng's tears fell freely. "You still remember me,